Chris mentions that he pictures Jessica in like 6-inch heels. He talks about how if she's 5'7", the 6-inch heels would make her like over 6 feet tall. And guys, I started laughing. I said, we all know Chris is out here struggling. He's worried that Jessica might be tall, okay? Because Chris does not look like he's the tallest guy. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. First, want to just say happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I thought today would be a great day to come out with a Love is Blind review, and I will be talking about episode 3. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. This episode starts off with Jordan and Amber, and we get to see their reveal. I was anticipating that Jordan would be happy with what he saw. I wasn't necessarily sure about Amber. So Amber had me cracking up, guys. I'm actually going to see if I can find a photo. If I can, I'm going to post what she was doing. But before the doors open, you can basically see like the shadow of each person, like the silhouette of kind of what they look like before they actually do the reveal when they're like behind the closed doors. And Amber is sitting here like posing all like sexy and sultry. You can tell that she's clearly like trying to pose in a way that will like make her body look good before Jordan can actually see her and the doors open. Amber is hilarious. I was just like, what is this girl doing? She's really, really funny. And she's basically like, you know, waiting for the reveal. You can see that she's really nervous, talking about how she had roast beef, but was able to brush her teeth. Amber is one of those girls who I feel like she doesn't even know how attractive she is. Like she doesn't realize it in some way. Okay, eventually we have the reveal, the doors open, and they both seem really happy with what they saw. But Amber was like blinking like really strangely. She was like blinking like this, kind of slow, and like even the way she was walking was just giving like, I'm trying to like look good for this other person. Like Amber is hilarious. Like she really doesn't have to do too much. Like she's a good looking girl, you know, you don't have to do all that. But there's something about her personality that I just really like. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this on the history of Love is Blind before. But yeah, I find her really funny. Jordan was extremely happy with what he saw. He seemed very happy, and, you know, he was even saying like, damn, like, I am just like, you can tell that he felt really happy and lucky that, you know, Amber looked the way she did. And I knew Jordan would be happy. So Amber also seemed very happy. There's something about her where she's not really giving like superficial to me. I feel like she really is looking for a connection. And, I do believe that she was also happy with what she saw. I honestly, guys, have really high hopes for this couple. I have to be honest, this is probably my favorite couple so far. I will be a little sad if things don't work out, but I obviously don't want to get ahead of myself because I know Amber has a child, and, you know, I think that does kind of complicate things a little bit more where, we'll see. But I'm really excited for this couple. To me, this was the best reveal we have seen so far. So we shall see. Okay, so then we go back to the mess in the pods, and we are in the women's quarters. We see Brittany, who's 33, and she's a nurse, and we're basically introduced to her for the first time. She says she's been manifesting a husband for a very long time. She even mentioned that she already has a wedding dress, guys. Brittany did not come to play. She said, I am leaving with a husband. She already has a wedding dress. This is the type of stuff that other women need to do, because sometimes in life, you just have to pretend like you already have it. But even hearing that, I was like, she's not leaving these pods without getting engaged. Like, she means business. So we see that she's talking to Devontae. He's 31 years old and he's a sales manager. So we see Brittany and Devontae talking in the pods, and she basically says that his voice is a little bit nerdy, but she doesn't really mind. He's basically says he's ready to be married. He's in a place where he's like financially ready, and he feels like he really knows himself. He mentions that his grandfather actually passed away while he was in the pods, like recently. And he tells Brittany that he has every reason to basically have left the experiment and just gone home. But he didn't really want to give up on being here and having this opportunity. So, yeah, that's really sad. And you can tell that, you know, he's obviously taking this very seriously, because at this point he could have left by now. Okay, then we see Alex and Ashley. And okay, Alex opens up a lot about his soccer career, what happened with him getting his knee surgeries. And we basically find out that and I feel like this has happened before. There was somebody else on Love is Blind. I think it was Love is Blind Italy. I think his name was Nicola. I don't know if you guys watched that, but he was also a soccer player. And I've noticed this pattern where, especially if you're a professional athlete and like you're good and you're like doing it even in your adult career as like a job, it's almost like you being a soccer player is your identity, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I was picking up on when Alex was explaining like what happened to him. I can tell he loves soccer, like soccer was his whole life. And when he got injured, he kind of realized that like his teammates were not even as close to him as he thought they were. And he basically had to find an identity outside of soccer. So he basically just really opens up about that and what that felt like for him. And he feels like he has found that identity outside of soccer, which is a good thing. But all I have to say is, I don't want to judge, but I'm not the biggest fan of like professional athletes. And I think the thing about Alex that's getting me is he's also like pretty attractive, right? So I'm just thinking like, why are you on Love is Blind? Like, and maybe that sounds terrible to say, but like part of me is like, you're ex-professional athlete, you know, you're tall, you're attractive. Like what is making you come on this show? So I don't know. I'm a little weary of Alex. I don't really know why he decided to come on the show, if that makes sense. Like, I know that he says in the past he's been superficial with choosing women and he wants to get out of that, but part of me is still like not really sure about Alex. I don't know. Okay, so then we go back to the men's quarters and we see Kevan and he's looking really down, and you know, he says Tyler basically didn't take it well when he told her that like, you know, he has a connection with somebody else, and you know, kind of made it seem like this connection with Kia was stronger than Tyler, right? Tyler was really, really not happy. We see Tyler in the women's quarters and she's crying and basically saying bye to everyone. She's like saying she's leaving the experiment, that like, you know, she's done with this, like she deserves better, blah, 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 going around saying her goodbyes. And we see Kia, and Kia is basically can see that Tyler's really upset and that she's talking about leaving. And Kia says that her seeing Tyler cry like that is gut-wrenching, and that, you know, Tyler is also an amazing woman. And all I can say is Kia is so much nicer than Tyler, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but I'm pretty sure I don't know if this was in the last episode where Tyler was talking about how Kia was basically, you know, she could be a side B to like a side bitch to hit her and Kevan, kind of like not really speaking well of Kia. And I didn't think that that was necessary, because in Love is Blind, there are people that have multiple connections. You don't have to badmouth them. We now see Kia clearly seeing that Tyler is upset and in tears, and Kia has empathy. She's like, I feel for this girl. I know that this process is not easy. Tyler is also an amazing woman. So Tyler needs to take notes out of Kia's book. And this is where I'm just going to say that I really like Kia. I think that she's showing signs of somebody that you would want to even have in a potential future long-term partner. And unfortunately, I'm not really seeing that from Tyler. But I like that Kia has empathy and she has the ability to say, this is a tough process for everybody, right? Like, I don't like how Tyler kind of handled that situation and how she was talking about Kia. I don't like that at all. So we basically see Tyler saying she's leaving. And she's talking to production, and production is basically asking her, you know, isn't this what you've done in the past? So production is trying to even get, you know, Tyler to like reflect and think, in the past, you've run away. Why are you running away now? Right? And we all know why Tyler's running away. Like, I can tell that Tyler just doesn't like the idea that I think she's like a control freak, right? And she doesn't like the idea that this man could possibly choose someone else over her after she's opened herself up to him, right? But this is what you call vulnerability. And it's not a bad thing. It doesn't feel good, right? But I think Tyler possibly struggles with being vulnerable and open, because it's okay if Kevan is not sure how he feels, right? You have to give somebody time to figure that out. And she's so ready to just cut and run. It's crazy. So production is basically telling her that there's a lot of time left and trying to just let her know you don't have to necessarily leave now, you know? So Tyler walks back into the women's quarters and all the women are like, Wait a second. I thought Tyler went home, you know? And she literally just leaves. Tyler leaves and she says, redo. Guys, Tyler's crazy. Okay, she's crazy. So we see Tyler go back into the pods now with Kevan to have another conversation. And this time she's a lot calmer. Kevan starts the conversation by apologizing and saying that he didn't mean for Tyler to feel like, you know, he had another connection and didn't want to continue talking to Tyler. Tyler apologizes for leaving the way she did so abruptly and like slamming the door on him. And he basically says there are qualities in her that he really likes. Tyler says that she wants to eventually feel like she's locked in with someone. And obviously she's hoping that at some point Kevan can give her the reassurance that she needs. Guys, Kevan will not be able to give her that reassurance. I do not like Kevan. Anything that comes out of his mouth, I just don't believe it. There's something about him that I do not like. And I don't think that he's like, they would even match well. I do not. So I don't really know why Kevan is still holding on to this stuff with Tyler. I don't really get it. Okay, we go back to the women's quarters. Tyler also apologizes to Kia because when Tyler was ready to like leave and call it quits, Kia tried to come up to her and talk to her, and I don't think she was very nice to her. So, you know, Tyler apologizes to her as well. They hug it out and whatever. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't know. I don't really like Tyler. I think that the way people handle situations when they're angry or when it tells you a lot about them as a person. And I don't really like how Tyler can just get so mad and be like very rude and dismissive and just like, it's not giving. It's not. Okay, so then we see Bree and she is torn between Connor and Chris. We see Bree talking to Connor and she basically is telling him she wants to be a soccer mom. The connection with Connor, she says, has been more of a slow burn. So it's not like he's somebody that she was gunning for the whole time, that it's kind of been like a slow thing to like progress and kind of get better. We then see Bree talking to Chris, and Chris says that one of the other girls that he had a date with in the pods, that he knew they were not compatible, basically said to him that there is another girl that he thinks is there for him. And Chris wanted to know what this girl was wearing. And this girl says that she's wearing an orange romper. So the beginning of this pod date with Chris, with Bree and Chris asked Bree what she was wearing. And she said she was wearing an orange romper. And then he goes on and he tells her the story about how another girl basically said that she would match well with Chris. So when Bree heard this, she was really, really excited to hear that and was like, I think it was just like maybe confirming that there is something there between them, especially if other people are saying that they would be a good match together. Chris basically says that he likes that she's independent and driven and says that they could challenge each other together. And something that Bree mentions is that she struggles to be in her feminine energy, and she's hoping that with Chris, she can kind of get into that energy with him. Okay, so we see Chris is torn between Bree and Jessica. He says Jessica is more open with her emotions, but that she's 38 years old. And that is 6 years older than him. So Chris is 32 years old. Bree is younger than him. I think Bree might be 30 or 31. And he says he's never really factored in age when it comes to dating, but it seems like Chris is thinking about age in this scenario, right? He's thinking about the differences between them. We see Chris talking to Jessica in the pods, and Jessica basically says Chris is the only person she can possibly see herself getting engaged to. So basically, Jessica is giving Chris like a lot of reassurance and telling him like there is nobody else, right? Chris basically says since day 2, Jessica has been his number one. And Jessica says something that I really like, and she basically says that she doesn't want Chris to pick her because she's picked Chris. She wants him to pick her because he wants to pick her. And I love that because I feel like in this Love is Blind experiment, there's a lot of pick-me's and people just want to be picked any which way. They don't even care. And I think it's important that Chris is like firm in the decision he makes, and he's not doing it just because Jessica says, hey, all my eggs are in your basket, right? Jessica wants him to make that decision with like a clear mind. And I think that that's really, really a good sign. he lets her know that there is one other connection that he has. And he basically says that that connection is like hanging out with a dude. Guys, he's referring to his connection with Bree. I was like, what kind of way do you even, how do you describe that? Why would you describe her as a dude? And he basically says that his connection with Bree is more like friendly. So in my mind, I'm like, well, Chris, if that's how you feel, then why are you even still talking to Bree? Like, that's crazy, you know? But even him saying that made me realize at this point, I do not think he will go with Bree, because I didn't realize he was seeing Bree as like a best friend or like one of his mates, one of his buddies. That is pretty telling at that point. So, and then he mentions, like, Chris mentions that he pictures Jessica in like 6-inch heels. He talks about how if she's 5'7", the 6-inch heels would make her like over 6 feet tall. And guys, I started laughing. I said, we all know Chris is out here struggling. He's worried that Jessica might be tall, okay? Because Chris does not look like he's the tallest guy. This is the same guy that talked about how, he's not over 6 feet tall and like, doesn't put that on his dating app. So Chris is already stressing, like trying to think, oh, how tall is Jessica? I hope she's not taller than me, right? And then him hearing that she likes to wear 6-inch heels, he's like, oh shit, like that's a lot, right? I hope she's not like tall and then wearing heels on top of that. So he does say that he likes dark features. And when he says this, Jessica is like, has the biggest smile on her face, which makes sense because she has pretty dark features. So in her mind, she's like, okay, well, hopefully I will be his type, Okay. And all I can say after this pod date is Chris better not be talking to Bree anymore. Okay. He needs to cut it off, because if a man described me as like a friend, a dude, oh, hell no. There's no coming back from that. So Chris needs to cut off the connection with Bree. All right. We see a montage of some of Alex and Ashley's conversations. Alex basically proposes to Ashley. Ashley says yes. And I'm excited for this, guys. I think that they look like they would look really good together. So I'm excited for this connection. All right. Then we go to Connor and Emma, and he says he doesn't have an exact type and says he already feels attracted to her just based on the conversations they have. Oh, he says he does want kids, but knows that Emma is still unsure about how she feels about that. But basically, Connor says that Emma is his number one after this pod date. And he's kind of reflecting on Emma and Bree and says that Bree kind of makes him laugh and kind of annoys him a little bit. And we see Connor basically talking to Bree. He opens up about his parents and how proud he is of them. And he gets very emotional as he's telling this to Bree. And already I can just feel that Connor is very comfortable talking to Bree. Like when I'm watching the pod date and how Connor is behaving, I think that he's probably the most comfortable with Bree. That's what I observed, that they almost seem like they already know each other, like they could be friends already, which I think is like a pretty good sign. But yeah, I'm just picking up on that like comfortability that he has with her. Okay, so then we see Alex and Ashley and they have their reveal. Ashley says she's basically looking for a Ken to her Barbie, which makes sense because like Ashley literally looks like Barbie. So she's looking for her Ken. And we see the reveal, the doors open. They both looked really happy. They immediately kissed right away and then hugged. He proposes. He says that she's gorgeous. He says this like multiple times, which I had a feeling he would be happy with this reveal. And I honestly thought Ashley would be happy with the way Alex looked too. I didn't think any of these people would be disappointed. Something he said that stood out to me was he's looking into her eyes and he keeps saying that she's got dangerous eyes. He was like, oh, don't look at me that way. And then he's like saying, oh, you're dangerous. And I'm like, what is so dangerous about this girl? Like, I get it. She's very attractive. Like, is it because she's like, I just didn't really like the way he was saying that. And it just reminds me of like guys you would meet out on like a night out and they would be like teasing you, talking about how, oh, you're going to get me into trouble. Ooh, I can tell you're trouble. Ooh, you're dangerous. But I feel like men that see a woman as like, right, because this is his fiance now, right? They're like engaged. I don't really know why you're saying your fiance is dangerous and this and that. Like something about it was just, I didn't really like that. It made me like, ugh. Okay, the chemistry though was crazy, right? These two have chemistry. There's no doubt about it. They had chemistry in the pods. They had chemistry now. You can see it, right? And they're like kissing a lot and just like talking. And then production started playing Bedchem. And I was like, really? You know, production had fun with this scene and putting this together. As they're playing Bedchem, they're showing like montages of them kissing. And I just was like laughing so hard. Like, it's funny, but like they definitely do have chemistry. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, once again, I don't know about Alex, guys. I am always like, something about him is making me feel like maybe you can't trust him. That's like my gut. That's what my gut is telling me. That something about him is just like, I don't know if I would trust him. So we shall see how that unfolds. Okay, then we go back to Bree and Chris. Bree basically is telling him that at this point, she wants to focus on her other connection. And Chris says it's okay because he wants to focus on his other connection. And guys, this was probably the most amicable breakup in the pods I have ever seen in my life, to the point that I don't even know why they were talking, because Chris wasn't bothered, Bree wasn't bothered. They were like, yeah, I think we have strong connections with somebody else. Cool, I wish you the best. And like left, you know? So it makes me wonder why they were even talking in the first place, because they were literally smiling and like relieved after it ended. So whatever, that's that. And I think that was a good decision. Okay, we go back to Connor and Emma, and Emma tells him her gut is saying she wants him, right? Like Emma's trying to tell Connor that like she's kind of all in for him. He says he thinks he has a strong connection with someone else. So Emma basically says to Connor that she gets the feeling that he has a strong connection with someone else. And Emma is thinking this because she saw Bree come back to the pods at one point, like really happy. So I think she's starting to get suspicious that maybe, you know, the connection she has with Connor might not be as strong as she thought. Connor is honest and he admits that he does have a strong connection with someone else, but hasn't really made up his decision on what he wants to do. Connor legit looks like he's being tormented, guys. He has his hands like this, like he doesn't know what to do. And that's how this episode ends. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know your opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, guys.